Well, good morning again, folks. I'm starting right over. I don't edit those videos. I do it straight through. I do it for several reasons. One is, well, simplicity, but also credibility. I don't want to edit these things very highly or very much. If I'm going to make mistakes, I'd rather they come through live. I'd rather you have a contiguous record rather than something that's edited. But the main subject is, I exercised quite well this day, well, the day before, and I should be sleeping tonight, growing. Yeah, I know, 70 years of old, and I'm still growing. We're going to be increasing the exercises a little bit, which I'm looking forward to, because I got a couple of areas that really still bug me. Want to exercise my way out of it. I don't have much time before I leave my winter area, and I think I'm leaving this time. I don't think I'm coming back. I don't know where I will spend next winter, but I just don't think it's going to be in this jurisdiction. I want to be a little more remote. As much as I love what I have going on here and the people that I've got and the friendships I've made and all of that, I'd like to get a little more remote. Society is going a bit crazy, and when I woke up originally, I had this on my mind, the Apocrypha books. I do not like the original King James Apocrypha because the citation is that they are from the Latin Vulgate, and they don't have as many verses as other versions. Also, the books are in a different order, so they lay out a bit differently. I still really want to get the Apocrypha out there because there are things very pertinent to what's going down right now today. And I've got here my original King James Apocrypha. I bought that off Amazon for $7, probably 8, 9, 10 years ago, and today last I checked it was $12. It's okay. It's got the spirit. The translation aligns with the original King James. However, it's got shortcomings, and I mean short. Then I have this version. Interesting how they're both read. And this is the New Revised Standard Version. I like it. The books are in a different order. Probably the most important thing is 2 Esdras has got 70 more verses in one chapter in particular. And those chapters are important to me because they have the order for those who do not make it. There's 7 bullet points. Those people who aren't going to make it, who are condemned in the second judgment, their order is there, 7 bullet points. And a chapter later, it has 7 bullet points for those who make it. And that is important to me because one of their rewards is for a week, that's what it says, they get to travel anywhere they want and see their reward. So for a week they get to tour the Wonderland, if you will. And then they're required to take their place until the time. And I would think that's the time of when all souls are raised up and judged. And they get to see that. Now, I had one grandparent who visited me on the way out. That's not too bad. You got 4 grandparents, and one of them visited me on the way out, which indicated to me that he made it. He showed up at the foot of my bed. I was in graduate school. He had just passed away in Wasilla, Alaska, and I was in graduate school in San Diego. And I woke up. He's at the foot of my bed, laughing, telling me how happy he was and how wrong I was, and laughing about it. And he was right, and I had to admit it. I told him so. And he was happy because his wife had died. My grandmother had died about a year earlier, and he was going to go see her. He was just really beside himself, or outside of himself. And of course, the next day, my mother calls me and tells me she has some news for me. And I told her, and she told me I better sit down. And of course, I told my mom, I says, Mom, I already know. Maybe you should sit down. She says, oh, I will. She wasn't sitting down. So she sat down, and I told her the whole story, and I asked her questions about how he spent his last evening. And we went through that, and basically the conclusion was that he had a good death, a good passing. He passed in his sleep. She discovered him in the morning, and he had turned blue and was lifeless. He had passed in his sleep. So that's my general inclination as to why I find the Apocrypha personally important. Now, why you're going to find it important is as follows. Well, the Catholics will tell you that we have no business in it. That's what one told me about a month ago. And that purgatory is established in the Apocryphal books. Well, we still don't know where purgatory is in these books, which one it's in, and which passages. It may be in here. It may be something they conjured up out of it. But I had to remind my publisher that, all of these beautiful cathedrals across Europe, I mean, there was a tremendous amount of artistry, labor, wealth poured into building those. I'm so glad those survived World War I and World War II. They are just very beautiful and very magnificent. However, we have to remember that they represent the sin of Europe. I mean, yes, they do, because the Catholic Church sold indulgences. If you wanted to go sinning, if you wanted to break the Ten Commandments, you paid a license fee in advance, and you were given a license to go do whatever sin it was you wanted. That was against the Ten Commandments or against whatever the Catholic Church catechism is. So you paid a fee, and then, of course, they bilked people out of all that money with their confessionals and all that other stuff. They took people over and took advantage of them that way. So those beautiful churches, as beautiful as they are, they represent the sins of Europe, because that's what they were built upon. However, what you will find is important is we have the first December 25th mentioned in the Apocrypha. And we also have this particular event that occurred, and I don't have it down very well, but it was the abomination that caused desolation. It was when Antiochus, I can't remember his full name, he made the religion illegal. He made it unlawful to practice, the old faith. And he killed the babies that had been circumcised and their mothers. And so that was on a Christmas day, December 25th. So I think that's important that we understand part of why that day was chosen. It was also chosen because it was the birthdays of some wicked people in the past, some other visages, personages of evil, basically. And then another thing that we have in the Apocrypha that I think is very important, there's a few other things that are kind of short, small, and sort of on the cute side, but the most important thing is we have the continuation of the beast system described pretty much in the Latin Vulgate. Now, we've got to sort out which sources should be used for these books, and also we have to also figure out what the motivation for the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits at the time, what their motivations were for why they chose these particular books and decided to omit some other things. What was their motivation? We know the Society of Jesus was founded to put forward the name of Jesus, which is a fraud, by the way. His name was not Jesus. And so the Society of Jesus was founded particularly to throw us off when it came to Yahweh's name. So they really were kind of one of the final blows on this whole thing. So in the original Apocrypha, King James Version, that is, and by the way, that I don't have the Catholic Bible, but I understand that's got a different set of stories, different set of books, different sources in it probably as well. But this such small print, it's a nuisance. Forgive that light, but I need it. And I'm going to open up here because we're going to go through this all over again. I think it's worth it. 2 Esdras. Okay. Aha! Look, I opened up to a passage that is also extremely important. So you need to understand what an earth age is. And that's what we're coming to. That's what this is, the end of the earth age. And we have it defined here in 2 Esdras. And this is an important passage. I think it's very important because the earth age is a little bit over 12,000 years. Remember, God's time is not our time. Our time is not his time. So, so it is a little bit different. And this is 2 Esdras chapter, I believe it's 14. It's dog-eared. Chapter 14. And okay. Chapter 14, 2 Esdras chapter 14. Esdras is the Latinized version for the name Ezra. So the book of Ezra is next to the book of Nehemiah in the Old Testament. And this is 2 Esdras. And there is 1 Esdras. They probably should have been called Esdras 2 and Esdras 3, to be quite frank with you. And supposedly, he wrote a whole bunch of books that he restored that were in the Bible. The numbers are phenomenal. They do not line up between these translations, so we do have a difference there. And it came to pass upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me, and said, Esdras, Esdras. And I said, Here I am, Lord. And I stood up upon my feet. Then he said unto me, In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses, and talked with him when my people served in Egypt. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt, and brought him up to the mount of Sinai, where I held him by me a long season, and told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, These words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. And now I say unto thee, that thou lay up in thy heart the signs that I have showed, and the dreams that thou hast seen, and the interpretations which thou hast heard. For thou shalt be taken away from all, and from henceforth shall not remain with my son. Shall remain with my son, and with such as be like thee, until the times be ended. So here's another guy that's being taken up and away. For the world has lost his youth, and the times begin to wax old. Verse 11, chapter 14, 2 Esdras. For the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are already gone, and half of a 10th part. And there remaineth that which is after the half of the 10th part. Now therefore set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption. Let go from thee mortal thoughts, cast away the burdens of man, put off now the weak nature. Set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee to flee from these times. For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. For look how much the world shall be weaker through age, so as the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. For the truth is fled far away, and leasing is hard at hand. For now hast the vision to come, which thou hast seen. Then answered me before thee, and I said, Behold, Lord, I will go, as thou hast commanded me, and reprove the people which are present. But they that shall be born afterwards, who shall admonish them? Thus the word is set in darkness, and they that dwell therein are without light. For thy law is burnt. Therefore no man knoweth the things that are done of thee, or the works that shall begin. But if I have found grace before thee, send the Holy Ghost upon me, and I shall write all that hath been done in the world since the beginning, which was written as thy law, that men might find thy path, and that they which will live in the latter days may live. And he answered me, saying, Go thy way, gather the people together, and say unto them, that they seek thee not for 40 days. But look, thou prepare thee many box trees, and take with thee Saria, Debria, Salimia, Ecanus, and Asiel, these 5 which are ready to write swiftly. And come hither, and I shall light a candle of understanding in thine heart, which shall not be put out till the things be performed which thou shalt begin to write. And when thou hast done, some things shalt thou publish, and some things shalt thou show secretly to the wise. Tomorrow this hour shalt thou begin to write. Then I went forth as he commanded, and gathered all the people together, and said, Hear these words, O Israel. This chapter continues, and he gets into the number of books that he writes. And so this is an important section. However, some of it seems a little outlandish. I think in this particular version, it says in 40 days they wrote 204 books. It's a lot more than what's in this Bible. So this is an important section, but what I wanted to bring upon you was this. The times. Back in verse 11, of chapter 14. The world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are already gone, and half of a 10th part. So if we divide it into thousands of millennia, thousands of years, we're 10,500 years into the earth age at the time this was written, which means there were 1,500 years of the earth age left. Now, as far as I can tell, this occurred during the diaspora. So the math does not quite add up, not with the dates in the calendar that we have right now. But this is important because it's towards the end of the earth age. And there's some more verses in here that pertain to that. And as I recall, the angel tells him that at the beginning of the earth age, the earth's children are strong. The earth produces strong men. But towards the end of the earth age, the earth produces weaker men. And we already have read in here, how much more shall the evil increase upon those that dwell on the earth? So we are towards the end of the earth age. What we are experiencing today does correspond with 2 Esdras, chapter 14. So this is important. And I actually, in chapter 15, the next chapter, I pulled for one word, and I wrote it in the margins and all of that. I will show you my note right there. If you can read it, I have sedition. So it's highlighted up. I use yellow highlight, and I use red ink, fast food colors. I want things to stand out so I can find them. So this is Ezra chapter 15, verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Sedition. It does not occur in this version of English. It's not the same word. I circled this in red ink. I underlined the word sedition. I highlighted the word sedition. This is the word that applies particularly to the Trump time. And I don't know that we're done yet with him. But we have had sedition. The government, the deep state went against the will of the people, for sure. And so that's what we have. And that's a sign of the times. So this to me is an important book for what we're going through right now today. Well, here. Esdras chapter 16, verse 70. For there shall be in every place in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. So let's look at January 6th. That was an insurrection upon those who fear the Lord. It certainly was. Trump was backed by Christians, backed by believers. And that was an insurrection against those who fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So that's going to continue. For they shall waste and take away their good and cast them out of their houses. Take away their goods. It's hard to read the S on that. This is very difficult. Verse 76, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord God, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. BLM and Antifa is what I wrote in the margins there. I have to admit that my iniquities and my sins weigh me down. I have to admit I have trouble getting stuff done I need to get done for myself, which I'm praying to the Lord I get done today. So we're going to go over to this other version, Modern English, a little bit larger print. And these are in completely different order than, okay, this is important. 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 59. On the 25th day of the month, they offered sacrifice in the altar that was on top of the altar of burnt offering. According to the decree, they put to death the women who had their children circumcised and their families and those who circumcised them, and they hung the infants from their mothers' necks. This is supposedly the first Christmas. It's not what we have been led to believe by a long shot. And the importance of this is that they had made, there's what's called the abomination of desolation. And it's not in the Bible proper, it's in the Apocrypha books. And that's the problem. And that Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus, from them, this is in 1 Maccabees, verse 10, from them came forth the sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. And remember, the Greeks were Hellenized. The Israelites were Hellenized. they became the Greeks. And the Septuagint was written in about 275 BC, produced in Greek so they would have access to it. In those days, certain renegades came out from Israel and misled many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the Gentiles around us. For since we separated from them, many disasters have come upon us." This proposal pleased them, and some of the people eagerly went to the king, who authorized them to observe the ordinance of the Gentiles. So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem according to Gentile custom, and removed the marks of circumcision, and abandoned the holy covenant. They joined with the Gentiles and sold themselves to do evil. When Antiochus saw that his kingdom was established, he determined to become king of the land of Egypt in order that he might reign over both kingdoms. So he invaded Egypt with a strong force, with chariots and elephants and cavalry, and with a large fleet. He engaged King Ptolemy of Egypt in battle, and Ptolemy turned and fled before him, and many were wounded and fell. They captured fortified cities in the land of Egypt, and he plundered the land of Egypt. After subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned to the 143rd years. Returned in the 143rd year. He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took the golden altar, the lampshade for the light, and all its utensils. He took also the table for the bread of the presence, the cups for the drink offerings, the bowls, the golden censers, the curtain, the crowns, and the gold decoration on the front of the temple. He stripped it all off. He took the silver and the gold and costly vessels. He also took the hidden treasures that he found. Taking them all, he went into his own land. Verse 1 Maccabees chapter 41. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Does that sound like America today? And that all should give up their particular customs. Oh, yeah. All the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many, even from Israel, gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. And the king sent letters to messengers to Jerusalem and the towns of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid burnt offering and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and festivals, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and other unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane, so that they would forget the law and change all the ordinances. He added, and whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. I think this book belongs in the Apocryphal books. I think the Roman Catholic Church took this out. I think it's kind of a shame. Anyway, I'm going to be calling today, Saturday, my brothers, and asking them to accept a task. I'm going to ask them to help me by figuring out which books belong in the Apocrypha. I think that's going to be the easy part. I think that's going to be easily agreed upon. And then I'm going to ask them a harder question, and that is, what order should the books be in? And then the most important question, which is going to be the hardest, is what manuscripts should we use for the origins of this? Should we use the Latin Vulgate? Or is there a better, more expanded, more accurate version that we should have? And when I get those three things answered, then I am going to do my best to see about getting this thing tasked properly. Once those, and I guess the fourth item is, if we can make a determination as to what the intention of the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits were when they did this, that because they do psychological operations. They did them back then. The Pope even banned them for life, and they made their way back, and now they command the Pope. The Jesuit general, the Black Pope, is the White Pope's boss. So they've taken over the Roman Catholic Church. And remember, they were founded to put forth the name of Jesus so that we would not use his real name, which is Yeshua. You may think, well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that you end up with a Bible that isn't as accurate. And you end up with a Bible that allows you to conjure up meanings that really aren't there. So they enable you some religiosity. Religiosity is a bit of a disease, an illness. It's in which people get carried away and they put things in there that aren't there. So it's like exceeding the data. It's like in psychological testing. They make assumptions on things that have not been researched adequately enough to have a foundation to put forth based upon the psychological testing. Well, that's the way it is in our Bible as well. We put forth things that really aren't quite there, and we establish them, and next thing you know, we're demanding that the other guy believe that or else. And that's not the way I see Yahshua wanting things. Last I checked, he wants volunteers. So people want to know, why don't I force my ideas on others? It's because Yahshua wanted volunteers. He wasn't lording it over, but then again, I guess he was. So I find myself contradicting myself. As my Native American brothers and sisters told me, you talk too much. And of course, they meant all white men talk too much. And I didn't talk as much as many others, and they said that my spirit and my heart, everything lined up as one, so I spoke truthfully compared to the others. That's why I was invited by the Navajo to their ceremonies. You know, there's something about me that's not too bad after all. And they invited me to their ceremonies, and even the women who had lived there for 5 years serving them hadn't been invited, and they told me they were upset that I, a man, would be getting invited to the women's ceremonies in particular. Well, I mean, her uncle, her big brother, you know, I mean, he invites me. I'm not going to say no. I mean, we stayed up all night. They had a hole in the ground, and they had her cake. We all ate of that, and next morning we went north and we did a sweat together. Whew. Staying up all night wasn't that easy then. Today it's very difficult. Although now the problem is I'm waking up a little prematurely. Folks, get these videos out there for me. Like these videos. I've got 100 subscribers. This is the second time I've been to 100. I promise to be a good boy. I'm going to do my best not to offend the community standards, although they don't like the Bible very much. These are definitely anti-Christians, anti-biblical people that run these organizations that command this stuff. So when I tell you the devil and his children rule the world, I do mean that pretty literally, and I do mean it figuratively as well. He's got a bunch of minions, a bunch of converts that do his bidding, and so that's a problem. And so we are going to be going through worse times, as it says here in the Apocrypha. We are at the end of the earth age. If Esdras was writing during the diaspora, that would have been probably about 700 BC. That would be 2,700 years ago. So maybe the day of the Lord, or an earth age broken into 12 segments, maybe it's 2,000 years. I don't really know. I don't try to hold things to hard, fast conclusions because I'm not really sure. I'm still sorting this out myself. My assumption was that recently that an earth age was slightly over 12,000 years. It could actually quite easily be 25,000 years. We know that the cycles are there. We see those in the rocks, especially in northern Arizona and in the Grand Canyon and Navajo area, you can see the folds in the mountains, where the striation, where there's some really beautiful folds in there, and each one of those folds is an earth age, and those are, generally speaking, limestone, sandstone layers. It's light-colored stone. However, approximately every fifth or sixth layer, it's black basalt, which to me indicates that the volcanoes kick up. And so that could occur every 60,000 years. It could occur every 120, 125,000 years. But the earth recycles itself. The earth recycles the surface. The whole earth gets recycled. And as I read the books, my discernment is that we are told that the angel over the pit is Apollyon, also known as Abaddon. Well, Apollyon sounds like Apollo. And in case you're wondering, I believe that the pit's not under our feet. I believe that that's what occurs every 12,000 or 25,000 years when we go through a particular stretch of the Milky Way that has got more space dust in it, or gamma radiation. It seems like the two are different perspectives of the same phenomena. They irritate the sun, and the sun at some point in time gets so irritated by this stuff that it blows. It blows this shell of dust off at micronovas. And the side of our planet that's facing the sun gets pretty toasted that day. And the other side goes into a deep freeze almost instantly. And the earth may rock. The earth may actually roll. The surface seems to come loose and slip. So it is a very violent day. And we also have some other things to talk about. But the Bible does have encoded in it this destruction that we are about to undergo. There's no avoiding that. So a Creator Father set this place up. So that's going to be happening at the same time that the evil ones are doing their best to genocide us. So I believe that the two are corresponding for a purpose, and that is the evil ones dig in during the end of each one of these earth ages with the idea that they and their children are going to come out on top and rule during the next earth age. I believe the evil ones have been on the planet for about a half a dozen earth ages, and they've been ruling the roost for that long. And they will dig in and put libraries in, their artworks. I think at one time they actually had computer disks that they had survived an earth age, so the knowledge would be continuing on. So we, on the other side, will be digging ourselves up out of the rubble. We will no longer have electricity. Everything will be destroyed, this electrical, and we will have to do without modern conveniences. And the sad thing is, because we've forgotten the old ways, we're going to be really struggling hard. Do you know how to make soap? That was one of my big questions a while back. I got ridiculed for it, but I was just pointing out how our forefathers were making soap maybe 100 years ago, even less. But they don't teach that in school. Why not? That's something that should be taught in school. Maybe in a home ec class. Heck, you could even make it for boys and girls. Everybody should know how to make soap, right? Well, I would gladly accept your prayers that we get this apocryphal project off the ground, and that this new Bible in one of the languages of the Philippines gets produced. I do think that's important, although I want to be selfish and I want to put everything into getting the apocryphal books out there. The assumption is that there's enough in the main Bible to get you saved. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's some extra biblical books that help out that I find very useful. And like I said, 2 Esdras. Oh, I'll see if I can find that quickly here for you. Where the order is for those who survive and all that. Those who have made it. Um, and then we have the three-headed eagle, which is the culmination of the beast system, which is really pertinent to what's going on today. Is that important for you to know to get saved? I'm sorry. I don't find it less important. I think it's important because this is a continuation of what Daniel started. So I think it. We need to be able to produce this pretty soon. And I don't think I'm going to be able to find that passage, but I will look and see it. It should be dog-eared pretty big. This is the deepest dog ear I have in this section. And this is the three-headed eagle in 2 Esdras 12, in which the whole body of the eagle was burned. And it's the previous chapter 11 that had to do with that. So that is an important thing to cover, that's for sure. Okay, here we go. I just happened to find it. This is 2 Esdras. Ah, my Lord. There's a lot of verses in this version. 2 Esdras. Wow. It goes on and on. Jeez. Okay, there, another page. Okay, chapter 6. 2 Esdras, chapter 6. That can't be right. 2 Esdras, chapter 7. Okay, that's where it is. And in case you're wondering, 2 Esdras, chapter 7, in this version, has got 70 verses. And, okay, and this is... Why am I not adding that up right? Huh. This is so interesting. Okay, I believe this is telling me there's a misnumbering here. And though I said there was 70, it's numbered duly as 140. So there's more than I need to learn about this. So we've got two different verse numbers there. You have 140 verses versus 70. So twice as many verses in this. And I don't know where that comes from. So we really do have some scholarly research to do on this. Okay. Now this is the verse 88. And this is before the double numbering apparently starts, which is after 104. Now, this is the order of those who have kept the ways of the Most High, when they shall be separated from their mortal body. During the time they have lived in it, they laboriously served the Most High and withstood danger every hour, so that they might keep the law of the lawgiver perfectly. Therefore, this is the teaching concerning them. First of all, they shall see with great joy the glory of him who receives them, for they shall have rest in 7 orders. The first order, because they have striven with great effort to overcome the evil thought that was formed with them, so that it might not lead them astray from life unto death. The second order, because they see the perplexity in which the souls of the ungodly wander and the punishment that awaits them. The third order, that they see the witness that he who formed them bears concerning them, that throughout their life they kept the law with which they were entrusted. The fourth order, they understand the rest that they now enjoy, being gathered into their chambers and guarded by angels in profound quiet, and the glory waiting for them in the last days. The fifth order, they rejoice that they have now escaped what is corruptible and shall inherit which is to come. And besides, they see the straits and toil from which they have been delivered, and the spacious liberty that they are to receive and enjoy in immortality. The sixth order, when it is shown them how their faces to shine like the sun, and that they are to be made like the light of the stars, being incorruptible from then on. The seventh order, which is greater than all that have been mentioned, because they shall rejoice with boldness, and shall be confident without confusion, and shall be glad without fear, for they press forward to see the face of him whom they served in life, and from whom they are to receive their reward when glorified. This is the order of the righteous, as henceforth is announced, and the previously mentioned are the ways of torment that those who would not give heed shall suffer hereafter. Verse 100. And I answered and said, Will time therefore be given to the souls after they have separated from their bodies to see what you have described to me? It's Esdras talking to the angel. He said to me, They shall have freedom for 7 days, so that during these 7 days they may see the things of which you have been told, and afterwards they shall be gathered in their habitations. And I answered and said, If I have found favor in your sight, show further to me, your servant, whether on the day of judgment the righteous will be able to intercede for the ungodly, or to entreat the Most High for them. Fathers for sons, or sons for parents, brothers for brothers, relatives for the kindred, or friends for those who are most dear. He answered me and said, Since you have found favor in my sight, I will show you this also. The day of judgment is decisive, and displays to all the seal of truth, just as now a father does not send his son, or a son his father, or his master his servant, or a friend his dearest friend, to be ill, or sleep, or eat, or be healed in his place, so that no one shall pray for another on that day, neither shall anyone lay a burden on another. For then all shall bear their own righteousness and unrighteousness. I think I've read enough for today. I really have not spent much time in here. I've been accused of spending a lot of time in it, but as you can see, I've dog-eared it, I've highlighted it, I've underlined it, I have studied it from this modern English version. This modern English version lacks the spirit, though. They change things up quite a bit. They really throw things off way too much. But yet it's from probably a better text. That's just my guess. So I ask you to pray for the mission here, and that is to bring these books to light. I would like to produce what I want to call a family Bible, large print, black leatherette cover with tabs. No version without tabs, since it does enlarge the scope by 14 books, and you'll need to be going back and forth between those. You need to be able to find those a little bit easier. So I don't see any reason to do 2 different formats of it at all. And I would like to have extra pages in the front for the purposes of recording births, deaths, and marriages. I hate to say it, but divorces as well. Some pages in the front. I'd like to see a return to the family Bible tradition that was the American tradition. We did not have marriage licenses issued by the government. That's a recent development in our history. We were married before God, before Yahweh. And I think we need to go back to that. And if you had to go to court and you needed evidence, your family Bible was admissible in court. And that would be the testimony of it. So you could show up in court with your date of marriage, your dates of birth, and all that, and submit it as evidence to the court that that's your marriage license. That's your birth certificate. I'd like to see us return to that instead of this beast system that we have today. And I think the beast system as it's spelled out in the Apocrypha, is important for us all to know. And I'm not even covering that today. We've covered that before. I will do more on that. Let me know what it is you want to see more of and hear more about, and I'll be glad to cover that. This stuff just fascinates me. It really does. I hope it fascinates you as well. I think that we've got some things revealed here which are important. And one of those is that the first order here, because they have striven with great effort to overcome the evil thought that was formed with them, so that it might not lead them astray from life into death. I think that's important to notice. I think that reveals something to us, and I'm probably going to read something into that right here. That may hold water, it may not. Okay. The glory of them who receives us, they shall have rest. The first, they've striven with great effort to overcome the evil thought that was formed with them. So when we are formed, might it be the case that we are formed with the good thought and the evil thought both? Might it be the case that when we generate a thought, it comes up in both a positive and a negative? And might it be the case that through our training and through our obedience, that what bubbles up through consciousness might be the good and not the evil? Might that be what our struggle is? Might that be part of our path to salvation? I know some of you folks have the answers. Well, then put them down below. I don't have them. I am not adequate to explain all of this to you. I am just another fellow wanderer down, fellow traveler. I hate using those words because I think of the associations with the communist travelers and the wanderer, Satan wandering across the face of the earth. Well, anyway, Yahweh bless. May he restore our republic. Of course, that means first, Yahweh must make America good again. I don't think that happens through Donald Trump or anybody else. I think that happens through the Holy Spirit. I think that happens by reading your Bible, doing what it says, learning from the examples given in the Bible, and choosing the good. When you're faced with a choice, you've got to make a decision. And hopefully you will be trained well and you'll make the right decision. And if you're floundering, maybe, as I speak to you, I really need to follow this advice. Maybe I'll turn to Yahweh and pray and just hesitate for a moment and say, hey, step in here and help me. Which way's best? Because I don't know what's just up ahead all the time. Yahweh does know. I'm convinced of that. May Yahweh bless.